How's it going, everybody? My name is Pasty and this is Pinhead, a God-fearing man from England turned into one of the most well-known servants from hell. Sit back and grab some popcorn as we take a deep dive into one of horror's most well-known characters on this episode of Who Is? In today's episode, we aren't going to be going over all Pinhead, as that would make this video insanely long. Instead, we'll be covering Elliot Spencer's life, before becoming the Hell Priest and after. Before becoming a Cenobite, Pinhead's real name was Elliot Spencer. He was a captain of the British Expeditionary Force during World War I. Elliot was a charismatic person who felt great empathy and compassion for his fellow troops and everyone around him. After participating in one of the battles of Flanders, he believes that God has failed mankind and loses his faith. Captain Spencer believed he no longer deserved a gift of life after watching his fellow soldiers die in battle. Suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, a disheveled Elliot Spencer walked the earth indulging in a hedonistic lifestyle. He started turning to more basic levels of pleasure until finding the Lamette configuration in British India. Unlocking the Lamette configuration shows him the true pleasures of pain and suffering. Pinhead has a row of long pins piercing through his skull. Also, there's some wire sewn through his abdomen seen to be holding his torture tools, and hooks in the back of his neck and back securing the black leather robe to his flesh. After transforming into Pinhead, he now has a supernatural pain threshold, meaning wounds that would usually be deadly are now just avenues of pleasure for him. In a suburban neighborhood called Pensionveneur in 1925 lived a conglomerate of artists who participated in the works of hell. The artists had a deal with the Cenobites that would allow them to inspire the artists through their dreams, and in return the artists would give the Cenobites their most perverse works of art, sometimes even a sacrifice of flesh. Pinhead, the female Cenobite, Butterball, and Sloth arrived in the neighborhood for their latest sacrifice. Moss convinced Pinhead that the author and director of Pensionveneur named Barzak would be a much worthier sacrifice to hell. Moss was then named the new director of Pensionveneur by the Cenobites. Elliot Spencer reaches out to a reporter, Joey Summerskill, in her nightmare and guides her to defeating Pinhead. Leading Joey to the Lamette configuration, Pinhead tries to stop, but the spirit of Captain Spencer intervenes and stops Pinhead by re-emerging the two spirits into one. Since the spirits are now one again, Pinhead is now bound by the Lamette configuration and sent back to hell. Jumping forward a few years in the 1980s, a man named Davis Fettlebebel finds and opens the Lamette configuration. Pinhead and the female Cenobites come to greet him. The Cenobites help him with his journey to be a better artist by showing him the powers of deception. Together, the three successfully turn humans into work of art by manipulating their flesh. Davis thanks the Cenobites only to be turned into a painting himself when the Cenobites leave. A year later, the Puzzle Guardian throws a horse trainer named Cassidy into hell, where she is greeted by Pinhead, the female Cenobite, and Butterball. The Cenobites were ordered by Leviathan to make Cassidy a Cenobite. Pinhead summons the creation chamber, and Butterball throws Cassidy inside. During a separate instance of Pinhead and his goons torturing people, they greeted an actress, Janice Bohr, when she opened the puzzle box. Pinhead informs her that everything she is about to experience is real. They then went on to torture Janice. The torture somehow led to a motivation, and she became immensely powerful. She can even be seen wearing a Lamette configuration in her necklace, suggesting she is still under the influence of hell. Jumping forward to the year 2000, Pinhead appears briefly in the movie Hellraiser Inferno. An LA detective, Joseph Thorne, leads a damning life. He takes drugs, sleeps with hookers, and lies to his wife. One day he investigates what looks to be a ritualistic murder scene. Joseph finds a child's finger along with the Lamette configuration. He's transported to his childhood home where the Wire twins seduce him and put hands inside of his skin. When Joseph tries to run, he is cornered by Torso and finally has his skin ripped off by Pinhead. Waking up in the bathroom of the motel, Joseph drives to the police station where he receives a call from the woman he spent the night with.
And the girl you were with last night.
She's my direct line. How did you...
Please, I'm still at the motel. Oh my God. Oh God. Please help me. Please help me.
Okay, just wait. Just slow down.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
Joseph and his partner, Detective Tony something, because I can't pronounce his last name, but there it is. They hurriedly go and investigate what happened at the motel. The hooker is coincidentally strung up by hooks in the bathroom of the motel. In the shower, they find a child's finger yet again. There's a bloody fingerprint found at the scene on the Lamette configuration, belonging to a man named Leon who says he's working for a serial killer called the Engineer. Joseph goes looking for the Engineer when he runs into a kid who mysteriously gives him a videotape containing the video of the Engineer. The Engineer is seen to have a Cenobite mask while killing Bernie, Joseph's snitch on the street. Joseph takes the tape back to the police station and it has nothing on it when he shows his partner. Fast forward through some of the movie, Joseph finds a note leading to the apartment where he finds a telescope. Opening the window and looking through, he finds Tony bound to a chair with chains and the engineer whipping him with a whip that has hooks on the end of it. Joseph receives a phone call from the engineer telling him to go home. When Joseph arrives home, he sees his wife and daughter hooked up to a frozen pillar. When he tries to save his daughter, her arm breaks off and explodes on the ground. Joseph's psychiatrist, Paul Gregory, appears and reveals himself to be Pinhead. Pinhead reveals that he was supposed to go back to his childhood home. Joseph is then attacked by everyone the engineer killed, shooting them all with a shotgun. He enters a dark room where he finds a child with his finger cut off and discovers that it was Joseph when he was younger. The engineer then removes the mask and reveals that he is also Joseph and that he had been the one killing everyone the whole time, as symbolized in the flashback when he shot all the people the engineer killed. Pinhead explains that Joseph had been in hell since the first time he opened the Lament configuration, and that the engineer represents flesh, whereas the child represents Joseph's soul. The child lost his finger 9 times, representing how many times he was given the chance to escape. Pinhead rips Joseph apart with his hooks, killing him. Joseph wakes up in the motel room thinking it was all a dream, until he's at his desk at work again and gets the same phone call from the girl he spent the night with. Realizing that everything has just restarted, Joseph turns the gun on himself and shoots. In the 2002 movie Hellraiser Hellseeker, Pinhead serves a similar role as in the last movie. Christy Cotton is back this time with her husband Trevor Gooden, a cheating, corrupt insurance agent. Later on in the film, he tries to have Christy killed in a murder for money scheme, using the Lament configuration to kill Christy without leaving evidence behind that would track him to the crime. Pinhead appears at the end of this film to inform Trevor that he's been dead and trapped by the Cenobites, and Christy opens the box hoping to summon Pinhead. When Pinhead rejoins Christy, he's hoping to finally leave with her soul, but she once again strikes a deal with him. She would give Trevor and the people he worked with to Pinhead in exchange for her never having to worry about the Cenobites again. Pinhead takes this deal happily. You think because Christy escaped with the labyrinth on multiple occasions that he would just take her instead, but he actually seemed quite pleased to see her. 2005 takes us to Hellraiser Deader. Kind of a stupid name, but this was the 7th film in the franchise, so we'll give it some leeway. Amy Klein was the unfortunate soul to open the Lament configuration this time, which was a central relic of a cult she was investigating. Winter, the group's leader, captures Amy where she learns that Winter is the descendant of the original puzzle box and believes that he should control the configuration and therefore owns the Cenobites in a way. Pinhead obviously does not agree with this and instead just kills him. Because Amy opened the configuration, she would have to be taken by Pinhead. However, before they could capture her, she took her own life instead of letting Pinhead torture her for centuries. In the same year, Pinhead also appears in Hellraiser Hellworld. This time, the Lament configuration and the Cenobites have become the basis for an MMORPG called Hellworld. Although Pinhead seems to attack the guests at the Hellraiser themed party in Hellworld, he is actually the hallucination of a party guest who is drugged and buried alive by the party's host. The host blames the guests for their son getting addicted to the video game and causing the death. The host then realizes that Hellraiser's mythos is based on fact and not theories. In reality, his son got a hold of the real Lament configuration, opening it for the real Pinhead to appear. Pinhead praises the boy's ingenuity and orders the other Cenobites to kill the host. Jumping forward to 2011, Pinhead is reunited with the original Gash, Chatter, the female Cenobite, and Butterall. Pinhead became bored with his own existence. He already solved the mysteries of flesh. This is when Pinhead orchestrates a plan to free himself from hell. Pinhead decides he wants to permanently return to his human form and seek spiritual salvation. Before he could hatch his plan to escape, he needs to find a replacement for him. He decides that the only person that could take up his mantle is the only person that escaped him, Christy Cotton. With the help of his human minion, Samuel Hess, Pinhead makes his first move against Christy, who has already been commanding their own Gash for the last 3 decades, by using her team to fight against Leviathan. Pinhead begins sending Christy anonymous clues as to the locations of artifacts that summon Cenobites so that she can destroy them. After Christy opens the artifact, Pinhead and his goons appear to Christy, but instead of killing her, he turns on his fellow Cenobites, teams up with Christy, and kills them. Pinhead proposes the idea of taking his place as the High Priest of Hell, allowing her to run hell as she saw fit. Christy called upon her friend Tiffany from the first 2 movies and discussed the decision. She tells Tiffany her plan to become the High Priest of Hell and how she can change hell for the better. They agree that this is the best decision for hell, and Christy opens the Lament configuration for the last time. After she enters hell, Tiffany destroys the Lament configuration, sealing the gateway to hell and trapping Christy there. Once Christy has entered the labyrinth, she makes her way towards the center, where a giant diamond-shaped cube suspended high above her slowly rotates. This sentient cube was the god of flesh and desire, more widely known as Leviathan. As she approached it, the diamond-shaped god lowers itself and opens a side panel, allowing Christy to enter. As she walks up the ramp, Pinhead is waiting for her to begin the process. Pinhead starts the process by taking a blade and carving out a grid on her scalp. He turns to Christy and tells her it's her turn. She grabs huge pliers and rips the nails out of Pinhead's head, removing the source of his power. Once she was finished, the multiple tentacles controlled by Leviathan begin transforming Pinhead back into Elliot Spencer and painfully driving the nails into Christy's skull, turning her into the High Priestess of Hell. Elliot Spencer turns to her and tells her to savor the pain, as it's the last thing she will ever feel in hell. While Christy began commanding hell, Elliot started his search for the key to spiritual redemption. Not long after returning to Earth, he becomes an ally to Tiffany, helping her find and destroy the remaining Lamartian boxes. In return, Tiffany would help Elliot on his spiritual journey to redemption. This eventually takes them to the original place that Elliot opened the configuration. They take a sledgehammer and finally destroy the lament configuration. This had two side effects. The first involving Christy and her journeying back to the mortal realm, but with the destruction of the configuration, her soul was transported into a strange realm where she met an entity that offers her advice. Meanwhile, Elliot's soul is transported to a realm where he meets a malevolent soul that offers him ultimate power. Both Christy and Elliot return from their separate journeys to discover there are no longer barriers between hell and the surface world. Fast forward to the year 2127 and Dr. Paul Marchant, another descendant of the creator of the lament configuration. Dr. Paul decides to go to a space station to complete the Elysium configuration, the only way to finally close the gateway to hell. Now in this movie it seems that Elliot Spencer is back in his Pinhead form, so we can just, I guess, assume that all of that was a reverse, or we can leave it up to the movie being made before the comic book that explains Christy Cotton's gateway to being Pinhead. Anyways, completing the new configuration trapped the Cenobites inside, and when it imploded, it finally killed the Cenobites.
What? No!
Thanks for sitting through this long ass video. This took days to complete, not to mention the recording and editing, plus I was working on the Chalmers video. It would definitely help if you guys could like the video and subscribe. It's a small action for you guys, but it really is huge for me. And make sure you guys comment down below who you want to see on the next episode of Who Is.